Kuzampo, welcome to Bhutan e-learning program. I'm Tokye. This is a biology lesson for Key Stage 5, classes 11 and 12. In today's session, we are going to look at yet another important topic, which will take you through how different types of life has come into existence. Today, we are going to look at species and speciation. So at the end of this session today, all of us should be able to explain what is species. We should also be able to describe the factors that contribute to speciation and state the differences between allopatric and sympatric speciation. I'm sure you would have wondered about the existence of different forms of life on the earth. But did you know that there was no life on the earth some 3.5 billion years ago? But today, if you look at, there are huge varieties of plants and animals which inhabit the world. If we take Bhutan as an example, which represents just a small geographical area of the world, Bhutan hosts over 5,600 vascular plants, around 200 mammals, over 743 species of birds. But how did that happen? The question that we may have to ask to ourselves is, how did the organism take this journey from non-existent to existing in diverse forms of life? Can you think for a while? As you think, reflect back. Know that there was no life some 3.5 billion years ago, but today we have diverse forms of life. How did this happen? Let us have a look at the flowers displayed here. Can you see the difference between the two sets of flowers? On the top you can see two red flowers, and here we have two white flowers. Do you think these flowers are same or different? Yes, you might say that the upper two flowers are red in color and the lower two are white in color. Otherwise, they are same. But in reality, these are four different species of rhododendron. First, you have Rhododendron barbatum. Then in the second here you have Rhododendron arboreum. Then you have Rhododendron madni, and then Rhododendron brandi. So these are the four different types of species. Now, the question that we may have to ask to ourselves is, what is a species? Can you think for a while? Okay. Do you think we are a species? Do you think you and me are a species? Are all the human beings species? What about the plants? Are plants a species? What do you say about these animals? Are they species? Would you say this zebra and the plant here are same species or different species? What about the two birds here? You could see two birds. Are they same species? So now, as we ask question about the species, and the question that we may have to ask is, would the species resemble each other? Would they look similar? Would they be different? Can they be completely different? If we look here, the two birds, they are different species. You have Inoceros, genera belonging to different species. And now if you look at these two animals, the horse, they look different, but are they belonging to different species? But they belong to the same species. Then you have the two dogs here. What about these two dogs? Are they same? No. Then do they belong to the same species? Yes, they belong to the same species as reflected here. So now, what is species? Species are a group of organisms whose members have the ability to interbreed and then produce the offspring that are viable and fertile. So such organisms or such group of organisms we refer to as species. But what is the meaning of interbreed and produce fertile offspring? Let us again look at these two birds. They look similar, but the thing is, they cannot interbreed. So which means these two birds are of different species. Now in some cases, as shown here, you will find that the animals are able to interbreed. For example, the horse and donkey here could interbreed and produce the offspring mule. But the problem here is, mule will not be able to interbreed and produce the offspring. So this shows that the horse and donkey, though they can interbreed, are not able to produce fertile offspring. Therefore, they are not of same species. How are new species formed? Because we have said that some 3.5 billion years ago, it wasn't like Earth, but today we see diverse forms of life. But how did that happen? It all happened through a process called speciation. But what is speciation? So speciation refers to evolution and origin of new species from the species which are already existing. So that is called as speciation. Now if you look at the evolution of modern elephant, you will be able to see here how a single ancestral elephant has gave rise to the modern elephant, the Asian elephant and the African elephant. So such diversification resulting into genetic differences, thereby forming a group of organisms which lacks the ability to interbreed, results in the formation of what we call it as species, and that we call it as speciation. What are some of the driving forces of speciation? What do you think might be assisting in producing new species? So there are different factors explained by evolutionists about the driving force that has resulted in creation of different species. But some of the accepted and general forces or the factors are: number one is reduction in gene flow. Number two, reproductive isolation. Number three, genetic drift. Number four, natural selection. And number five, mutation. So these are the factors that favors speciation. Now let us look at each factor and then see how it is shaping the speciation. Number one, let us look at the gene flow. So what do you think would be gene flow? So gene flow in simple term refers to the transfer of genes from one gene pool to another gene pool. Now when we say gene pool is found in a group of population, or group of population together constitutes a gene pool. So if there is movement of a member from one population to the other and from the other group to another group of population, it shows that there is free flow of genes resulting in the exchange of genes. So this process happens through two ways. One, we call it as immigration, when if there is a movement of a member from another population to this population, then we call it as immigration. But if some member moves from this population to the other population, we could also call it as immigration. Okay, let us look at an example of the beetles here. So you could see two sets of beetle, one with a green and the other with brown beetle. Let us see how the exchange of or the flow of the gene is happening in these two populations. So you could see the flow of or the movement of green beetle from green population to the brown population, and in the same manner you could see brown beetle moving to the population of green beetle. So in this way there comes the exchange of genes from one gene pool to the other. But these do not happen always. So when there are some barriers, the movement of gene from one population to the other is restricted. So there can be so many barriers. Sometimes it could be geographical barrier, sometimes it could be the reproductive barrier, sometimes it could be the genetic barrier, which prevents the flow of gene from one population to the other. and such phenomena results in creation of a population with a different alleles. So therefore, bringing about a new set of population which will not be able to interbreed. Number 2, we have reproductive isolation. You know the term reproductive, you also know the term isolation. Using these two terms, can you try to think what reproductive isolation is trying to do and then resulting in speciation? So reproductive isolation actually do not let the successful mating to happen. Even if successful mating has happened, the offsprings will not be able to survive, become viable and fertile. So there are two ways through which reproductive isolation controls speciation. Number 1, we call it as pre-zygotic barriers, and number 2, we call it as post-zygotic barriers. So pre-zygotic barrier are, there will be some mechanism which prevents different species from mating. That's one. And then even if the mating has happened, you will find that the mating is not successful, meaning that after mating, the offsprings cannot be produced. For example, if dog mates with a cat, firstly, mating will not happen, which means mating is prevented. Secondly, if there is an attempt of mating happening between dog and a cat, it will not be successful. Even if the mating is successful, fertilization will not take place. So, which means the interbreeding between different species cannot happen. So that is called as pre-zygotic barrier. Besides those, the other reasons for pre-zygotic isolations can also happen due to habitat isolation. Sometimes the individuals might belong to the same species, but because they are residing in different places, that is why mating cannot happen. Number 2, temporal isolation, because of the timing, about which we will discuss a little later. Then behavioral isolation, mechanical isolation, and gametic isolation. So these are again some other conditions which will prevent from mating. So if you look at the pre-zygotic isolation, these are the two crickets, one which lives in clay soil and the other lives in loamy soil. They belong to the same species, but because they are residing in a different place, that is why the mating cannot happen. So that is the habitat isolation. And in another case, you have the frogs. That is, the frog on the right side reproduces earlier than the frog on the left side. The frog on the right side reproduces earlier than the frog on the left hand side. So that is why, of course, they are belonging to the same species, but the reproduction doesn't happen. As a result, over generation, these two frogs might result in becoming a new species. So that is called as temporal isolation. So now, let us look at the post-zygotic barriers. Post-zygotic refers to formation of the zygotes. If the successful interbreeding has happened, the zygote will be formed. But can they produce the offspring? Many a times you will find that there is a developmental errors which will affect the survival of the offspring. And even if they survive, there will be birth defects resulting in death of this offspring. And in some cases, like as we have seen already, in case of a donkey mating with a horse producing the mule, the offspring produced will be infertile, thereby not fulfilling the condition of species. So, basically, you will find reproductive isolation as seen here between different species. Let us now look at the third reason, that is the genetic drift. What is genetic drift? What do you think would be genetic drift? So genetic drift refers to sudden and random changes in the allele frequency in a small population which happens by chance alone. There is no other driving force. It happens by chance. What is allele? Allele, as you know, is the alternative form of genes, which will determine the characters in the species. So there are two explanations about the genetic drift. First one, we call it as sampling error or genetic bottleneck effect. So as you can see here in the figure, you find that in the initial bottle, there are equal amount of two types of marbles. The marble with red color and the marble with blue color. So in the population, you will find that in the initial setup, the frequency of the allele is almost equal as the amount of marbles. The blue marble and the red marble is same here in the bottle. Now, if you take that bottle containing marble and shake it, trying to take out some marbles and put it in the beaker, the probability of having equal ratio of marble with same color or with different color is dependent on the luck. So when you shake for some time, it might so happen that many red marbles will come out and few blue marbles might come out. Now if these are the population and if it happen to go under several generations of reproduction, then ultimately you will get a generation that is dominated by the red marble. So let us now look at the actual example of what a genetic bottleneck effect is. So there is a population here, the population of the rabbits, which has white rabbit and the brown rabbit. Original population has almost 50% of white rabbit and 50% of brown rabbit. Now, because of some natural calamities, maybe a disaster, or maybe a flood, or maybe because of the earthquake, the population crashes. Almost all the population will die, but few survives. And they who survived, the brown ones survived. So now, what gene would they carry? They would not represent the original allele frequency that is present in the original population. So, the allele frequency or the gene these rabbits are carrying will not be same as what was there in the original population. And now, they move and they restart the population. But these do not happen at one occasion. This might happen after several incidents of natural disasters. When this brown rabbit starts the population, new population will consist only of the genes which are found in the brown rabbits, thereby eliminating the genes that were present in the white rabbit. So that is about the sampling error. So the survival of brown rabbit here and thereby propagation of their offspring and forming a new population has happened only by chance, not by choice. Number 2, genetic drift, is titled as Founder's Effect or Founder's Principle. As you can see here, again we will use the same analogy. In the parent population, you have 50% white rabbit and 50% brown rabbit. Now, because of intra-specific competition, some of the rabbits may want to move out of the parent population and establish a new population because for so many reasons. Maybe the competition within the parent population is so high that they are forced to move out. Or maybe they might have found out a better place where the resources are better. Two considerations that we are making is, in one case, you find a brown rabbit moving from the parent population to set up a new population. In another case, you find a white rabbit moving out. So after few generations, you will find that two new populations which are completely different from parent population is being established. So you have a brown population of rabbit initiated by the brown rabbit that has moved out from the parent population, and you have a new population of white rabbit established by the rabbit that has moved out from parent population. Over the generation, you will find that these two populations, the brown rabbit population and the white rabbit population, will not be able to interbreed, thereby indicating that they have now become a new species. Let us now look at the fourth factor, that is natural selection. As you know that natural selection is a theory proposed by Charles Darwin, which basically explains about the survival of the fittest, meaning that the individuals who has better adaptive features will be able to survive. And this is best explained through the video shown here. So here you could see a chameleon feeding on the bugs. So you could see two sets of bugs, the green bugs camouflaged by the green leaves and the brown bugs which could not be camouflaged. Now which bugs do you think has better survival advantage? Can you think of the answer? Okay, I'm sure. Actually the answer is already here. Based on the way the chameleon is feeding on the bugs, you should be able to determine which one has survival advantage and which one has the camouflage ability. So here, the green bugs will survive because it will not be seen by the chameleon, and they will survive and they will propagate. In that way, these species will multiply. So that is another example. So now the fifth reason which drives the force of speciation is because of mutation. As you can see here, the Drosophila, you can see two sets of Drosophila. The first normal with the red eye and second with the white eye. It is believed that the red-eyed ones are the original ones, ancestor, but because of the mutation, the white-eyed Drosophila has been reduced. But for now, they can interbreed. But after many generations, there might come a time where these two Drosophila will not be able to interbreed, thereby forming a new species. These are the 5 driving forces which results in creation of new species, and the process we call it as speciation. Let us now look at types of speciation. One we call it as allopatric speciation, and second we call it as sympatric speciation. Let us first look at what is allopatric speciation. So allopatric speciation is a kind of speciation caused due to geographical barriers. So the geographical barriers could be due to the formation of a big mountain or big river, sudden breaking of the land into separate parts. So these separates the population from one another, as you can see here. So once the populations are separated, initially these two populations separated from the original population will carry same genes. But over the years, after many generations, these two populations will develop new set of genes. And after many generations, if these two populations happen to be together, they will not be able to interbreed, meaning that they have now become a new species. Let us now look at the example of the two types of owl here, the northern spotted owl and the Mexican spotted owl, which are found on the west coast of United States. They initially belong to the same population. They were same species. But because of the geographical barrier, today you find that the genetic composition and the phenotype of these two owls are different. And this is an example of allopatric speciation. So you have to understand that allopatric speciation is the formation of new species due to separation caused by geographical barrier. Let us now look at the second type of speciation, that is the sympatric speciation. So sympatric speciation results in the population that has originated from same ancestor, but they form new species because of reproductive isolation. Because these species are isolated reproductively, that is why they form new species, but the formation of new species in sympatric speciation is not due to physical barrier. So there are two driving forces that creates sympatric speciation. One we call it as polyploidy, and second we call it as habitat selection. Polyploidy is the condition in which organisms tend to have more than two sets of chromosomes. A condition where there is presence of more than two full sets of chromosomes. So such condition, if found in animals, will not be able to survive. Therefore, polyploidy generally happens in plants. So the species might be inhabiting the same place because the chromosomal numbers are different in the two species. That is why they cannot interbreed, and they result in production of forming of a third species. So that turns out to be a new species. And the second reason is habitat selection. Sometimes, because of some reason, the organisms tend to select a different habitat in the same space. The organisms, plant and animals, might be inhabiting in the same place, but one might choose to live in water and the other might choose to live on the land. So the best example of habitat selection is North American apple maggot fly. It is believed that North American apple maggot fly initially was feeding and living on the hawthorn plant. They were feeding on those fruits and surviving and then inhabiting there. But later, when the Europeans moved from Europe to America, settled there and started growing the apple, and after generations, these two, the maggot fly which is feeding on the hawthorn fruits and the maggot fly which is feeding on the apple, turned out to be a different species. So this is an example of a sympatric speciation. So with this, we come to the end of discussion about species and speciation. So let us have a quick check on what we have discussed. So first we have talked about what is species. So what is a species? So species are the group of organisms which has the capability to interbreed and produce the fertile offspring. After that, we have looked at the speciation, and we said that speciation is the mechanism or the process where new species are formed from the existing ones. Then we have also looked at the different forces that has contributed to speciation, and finally we have looked at two types of speciation. One is the allopatric speciation and number two is the sympatric speciation. So allopatric speciation, we knew that it is the speciation caused due to the geographical area such as formation of valley, formation of mountain, formation of islands. And lastly, we talked about the sympatric speciation, wherein we said that sympatric speciation results due to polyploidy, a condition where organisms tend to have more than two sets of chromosomes, more than 2 full sets of chromosomes. And number 2 is because of habitat selection. And let me now give you a few questions for you to explore on. Question number 1. Mutation is a raw material for evolution. Explain. So you will explain how mutation helps or works as a raw material for evolution. Number 2, for you have attended this class and you know what is species and how speciation has happened. Now, how would you explain this concept of species and speciation to a non-science student? Number 3, explain how natural selection has influenced agriculture. So these are the 3 questions on which you will work, find the answer. And I would like to thank you for attending this session, and I look forward to having you in my next session. Thank you and stay safe.